negative comments. I wondered if our exposures. Sewer. Actually,
Is that a show? National
Oh,
Radio?
yeah,
No idea what. If he had his brothers, he could go to the drama school. Can make this do it.
Nothing.
Firm up what he's
Actually, you
doing.
can shoot.
he doesn't want to be careful with this stuff every day and have freezes and sticks to
Right back to training.
Very different.
He should be like consistency.
6:30, call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Mordini?
Here.
Sargent?
Here.
Anderson?
Here.
Lane?
Here.
DeVore?
Here. Item number 3 is approval of the agenda. No additions or corrections. Take a motion.
Motion to approve agenda as presented.
Second.
Roll call.
Lane?
Yes.
DeVore?
Yes.
Mordini?
Yes.
Sargent?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 4 is public comments. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council at this time? Hearing none or seeing none, moving on to item 5. Item 5 is consent agenda. I'll take a motion.
Motion approved.
Second. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
DeVore?
Yes.
Mordini?
Yes.
Sargent?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 6 is new business. Under new business, item 1, economic development agreement with Cinders Construction LLC. This time it's time to close the regular meeting and open public hearing, entering into an economic development agreement with Cinders Construction LLC. I'll ask the clerk when the notice was published.
April 15th?
Have we received any written comments for or against?
No, sir.
This time I'd ask staff to make a report. Mr. Manna?
Very quickly, Mayor, this grant, for lack of a better word to call it, is allowed by city code and state code. A copy of the agreement is in your packet, and the agreement follows the guidelines set forth in the Code of Iowa. And I'm looking for that section and I'm not finding it. Or 15A, Iowa Code 15A. This will be to take care of and be partners with Cinders Construction LLC in the removal of a dilapidated building located at 302 West Broadway.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard for or against this agreement?
I think for the record, because this is being televised, that we should say where this building is unless somebody has a reason that we shouldn't.
No reason, it's the Broken Arrow, the
Old Broken Arrow.
frame structure portion of the Broken Arrow.
Okay, that's all I wanted. People will be asking questions about what we did and where.
Need a motion to close the public hearing and reopen the regular meeting?
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Anderson?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
DeVore?
Yes.
Mordini?
Yes.
Sargent?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item B, consider motion to approve resolution 2016-37, entering into an economic development agreement with Cinders Construction LLC and approving payment. Take a motion.
So moved.
Second. Questions or discussion?
So, in the agreement, this is payment immediately, I lost that, sorry.
Under Article 2A, we have 30 days after which an agreement has been brought in that is for the demolition. We are in receipt of that.
Any other questions?
Is there anybody here from Senders?
No,
Don't see anybody.
he was at our last meeting, I know.
You know my opinions of people that don't show up when we're handing out money.
Any other questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes,
Lane.
No.
Motion carries. I'd like to thank staff for their work on. Go ahead. Oh, yeah. Here now.
Yes, that would change my vote. Can you change his vote?
The vote has already been taken. The motion carried.
Motion carried. Again, I'd like to go back and thank staff and Bruce Bolin and Senders Construction and PCDC for their work on getting this through. It's been a long time coming. I look forward to seeing it through to completion. Item 2, Arbor League update from, what's that? Do you have anything, Bruce, do you have anything you want to add? Okay.
I'm here to defend myself.
You're
Too late.
too late. Number 2, Arbor League update from Ken Morrison, Tree City USA presentation. It's all you.
I'll put my tree guy hat on.
Perfect.
Well, you guys are faster than the Parks Commission. I'll try not to hold you up too much here.
Get stuff done
It's
around here.
our annual Tree Board Arbor League update. Tree Board update, all is well. Emerald Ash Borer is coming around. Obviously, you're aware that we've treated several of the trees, city ash trees. EAB is on the horizon and will make its impact in our area in short order. A year or two, we're going to see the devastation take place. And if you drive around Des Moines, you can see the trees disappearing already. So, they talk about 10% of the trees being ash trees. That's a lot. So you're going to see the impacts of EAB.
Refresh our memory. What have we treated in town so far?
The trees at the sports complex and the trees on the town square, and that would be it.
And what other ones do we need to be thinking about, or do we?
I don't really know that we have all that many on city property. Did we remove the ones at Miller Park at this point? The ones red?
Yeah.
Yeah. The ones that were left up at Miller Park were not really, worth saving. I don't know that we have many others
Okay.
around town on city property.
And for right now, it's every 2 years they're treated
Every
and.
2 years for
Okay.
treatments, yeah.
And is that an automatic thing that's just gonna get done every 2 years?
Well, I would assume that Scott Kluver, who treated the trees, will be sending a notice around in a couple of years. If not, I'll do my best to remind you as well.
Okay, one way or the other, we'll make it happen, yeah.
I'd just like to thank Ken, especially those trees out at the sports complex probably provide the most shade of anything out there, have probably been there the longest. And I think it was very important that we save those.
Thank you for doing that, and there's a lot of nice trees out at the sports
Yes.
complex. It all takes time. Arbor League update, the Arbor League continues to maintain all of our past plantings. We're planting 2 trees at Westside Drive Park this Friday for, what's the holiday? Arbor Day, there we go. You didn't win anything, but it's Arbor Day.
Dang it.
We're planting 18 shrubs in the near future around that Northern Natural Gas building at Lakeview Acres Park, which is on Parker Boulevard at Phillips, that little brick building in there. We're doing some landscaping work around that, funded by Mid-American Energy's Trees Please program, so be sure to pay the power bills. The Arbor League continues to make our improvements at Westside Drive Park. And I'd like to thank Public Works for making it possible to get a great big boulder and a pole moved up there for the kids. And I no more than got that balance beam pole laid in place, and the kids just went nuts. And I got a picture of about 50 kids on that pole, and it was all kinds of cool. So if you haven't been by that park up there on West Side Drive behind the elementary school, I'll make it a point to take a look. It's not the normal city park. You won't find any plastic playground equipment up there. Tree City USA. We attended the Tree City USA luncheon recently. Lindsay attended, Phil Jensen, my right-hand man with the Arbor League, his wife Lori, and the mayor all attended the Tree City USA luncheon. I forgot to bring my brochure, but I believe the numbers were, I think there were 88 communities in Iowa that got Tree City USA. And how many communities are there in Iowa, Gary?
999, unless one has 995, excuse
Okay,
me.
because I know you corrected me on that a few years back. So 88, I think, is the number that are Tree City USA, and of those, I think there were only 18 that got the growth award, Polk City being one of those. I do have the new Tree City USA flag. Oh, and I have some really nice prizes here to give out. I've got I've got 3 questions and 2 prizes. The first question: does anybody know how many years Polk City's been a Tree City USA?
Including this year?
Including this year, including the new one. I'm sorry,
23?
you don't get anything, because that's just a test of your memory, Dan, because you were right last year. You don't win anything for that. Good job of keeping
You're in the
track.
comprehensive plan too.
Your memory's working, that's good to know. We've got for City Hall, the Tree City USA plaque thing that goes on. This goes on the Growth Award plaque. This is one of the cool gifts that I've got to give out. Does anybody know what the state tree is of Iowa?
Oh,
Can you be a little more specific?
Bur oak.
Bur oak, and where'd that come from?
That came from down here.
Bur oak. Actually, I was gonna ask you to do that like a Jeopardy, like.
Oh, I don't know, you two.
You have to do it as a question, like,
Fight
what
for
is
it
the
or
state tree? Oh, there you go. There's the
Yeah,
pen. If you guys wanna haggle over
I'm
that.
from Wisconsin, I know that.
Do you, how many of the council members, including the mayor, how many of you are native Iowans? Native Iowans. We've got a few up there. Who can be the first one for this beautiful Tree City USA hat to tell us what the state motto is?
Place to grow.
Come on.
I got the hat last time.
You know the motto, Ron?
You know it, you can
Good.
get that again.
Yeah, it's a state for all seasons.
No.
Oh, that's Polk City. Excuse me.
All native, bunch of native Iowans and nobody knows the motto.
Fields of opportunity. I thought that was a good one. I like that one.
I won this as a question at the state fair a couple of years ago, and I got a pin for it. The state motto of Iowa, it's on the flag.
Oh, that's what I was looking at, I couldn't see it.
Our liberties we prize and our rights we will maintain. Kathleen knew that? I'm gonna
Kathleen
leave
gets
this.
the hat.
You get the hat.
Holy cow.
You didn't know it.
Get a good
Wow.
Iowa. That's a good Iowa there. Yeah, our liberties we prize and our rights we will maintain. It's on the flag in case you forget. I won't bring that one up next year. That's all I've got for my report.
Terry didn't put it on.
Oh, would anybody like to have a group photo taken with the new Tree City USA flag?
I think it looked good with the mayor.
I think
Website?
I think all council should be part of this, quite honestly.
For the website, would you like to have a photo taken?
Do you have a official photographer here tonight?
Is there anybody that can do
Just
that?
iPhones.
I can do it.
Oh,
You're
Trying
gonna
to-
find the picture.
yeah, you gotta be part of the picture.
No, I'm not a council or mayor.
I'm not gonna make you do it if you don't want to do it. There's your new
No,
flag.
you're the one that really gets things done.
No, we'll take it, we'll get it on our phone. We can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Set it right here, just make it happen.
Right in front of the honorable.
Make it happen.
Knock it off. Drive me crazy. Good thing you're.
Looks good.
Harry, would you get over here and stand over here? Come on, get up here.
I was gonna say, you're gonna have to hold it higher.
You're a little short there.
I know.
How's that work?
I photographed it well. I do.
Man, holy cow, I was just about mad.
How's that working?
We don't get together and narrow.
I know. You got
Okay, ready? Everybody say trees.
Oops, I just cropped Dan out.
Don't leave anybody out.
Oh, did you say?
Okay,
Trees.
another one.
Trees.
And one more for the trees.
Bark at us.
Okay.
Did you say don't leave
He
things?
did say don't leave anybody out. He did say don't leave anybody out. I heard it. Just they heard it. It was horrible.
The last one was for
Okay.
the dartboard.
That must be.
That's all I've got, folks.
Thanks, guys.
You know what to do with this one. Thank you very much. Okay, thanks,
Hold
folks.
on. He's got
Appreciate your support.
Thank you.
I would just like to thank Ken for his dedication and hard work at that, and for always making the meetings fun.
Even though you didn't win anything this year.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
I
thanks.
would second that.
I'll
Do
do
you
my
know-
homework next year.
You're welcome.
Do you know, and I'm guessing the answer is probably not, is with the amount of land we have bordering to core land, are they doing anything with their ash trees?
They are not doing anything other than in the campground areas. They will not do anything in the they're taking down ash trees that are deemed hazard trees in campgrounds only.
I think when we had our meeting with the Corps last year, and the amount of trees that they have out at Saylorville is gonna be bad. I mean, they were very clear to say that they have no idea really the true impact it's gonna be because of how many actually are on the shoreline.
Right, there are native ash trees all over the state.
They said it's gonna be
They won't
really
be
bad.
protected anywhere. So.
Yeah.
Thank Michigan.
Thank Michigan, is that what we think?
Thank China.
Thank China.
That's where they started.
It started there, but didn't the guy from Michigan come in?
Well, they sent them to us from China, and they knew it.
Should be worth a pin, is what you're trying to
Okay,
get.
the next thing up is the proclamation for Arbor Day. I'll
Yep.
wait for that.
And we'll get that. And I would, we did go to the luncheon, and it is pretty cool to see, we're kind of a select group down there when it comes right down to it. So that was pretty neat.
Big deal.
Yep, it was. Item A, Mayor Moore's proclamation announcing April 29th as Arbor Day. Do I need to read the whole thing?
Sound like Gary Heimitz now.
Okay. I'll just, how about I read the last one that just says, now therefore, I, Jason Morse, Mayor of City of Polk City, Iowa, do hereby proclaim April 29th, 2016 as Arbor Day. How's that?
Beautiful.
Excellent.
Thank you for your support.
Appreciate everything.
Yeah.
So from now on in the package, I only need to read that last paragraph of everything.
Sure. That's all you need to read. Item 3, consider motion to approve resolution 2016-39 to set public hearing for rezoning of .88 acres from R2 to C1R restricted to a funeral home petitioned by Lakeside Fellowship Church property located at 302 South 2nd Street.
Very quickly, this location is the E Free Church, as it used to be known as. It's currently owned by Lakeside Fellowship Church. They have a offer to buy pending that allows, or that calls for rezoning to allow a funeral home in that building. It is currently zoned R2. It would need to go to C1 to allow that. The P&Z heard the arguments for and against and restricted the use to funeral homes only.
And you're only setting the hearing tonight, no discussion.
Yeah, this, want to remind everybody that all we're doing is setting a public hearing. We're not discussing either one of these items tonight.
Does that mean you're making a motion?
Yes.
Okay, so I thought.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sargent, Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 4, consider motion to approve resolution 2016-40 to set public hearing for Crossroads at the Lakes regarding the following zoning changes. So do we have, how does that work on this one?
Same thing, you're just
Okay.
setting the hearing.
But I'm not ABC, it's all,
No,
It's all part of your
it's all part of the
resolution.
resolution? Okay, so I don't need to read ABC, so I'll take a motion for item 4 to set a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sargent,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
And both of those public hearings will be May 9th, right?
May 9th, 6:30.
6:30.
We're not discussing these at all tonight.
no, that's
No,
for the
not
public
till the
hearing.
That's what the public hearing is for.
Can't wait to hear the reasons behind this one.
You got 2 more weeks to think about it. Item 5, consider motion to approve Hill Brothers Asphalt and quote in the amount of $9,600 to patch 4 streets on Eastwood, 4th, West Grimes, and South 3rd and Davis. Mike?
Yeah, these are actually 4 areas, 9 different patches, but this is separate from our street repair program. This is for the asphalt streets, so I try to call it something different so we all know what's going on here. One of the areas you're going to see is Davis Street, and I know we're talking about repairing the whole street in the coming budget year, actually the 17-18 budget year, which is another discussion, but there's a couple areas up there that can't wait that long. It is truly broken out. So that's why it's in here. We know it, but we just can't wait. The others are fairly self-explanatory, and we'd like to get this moving.
Where do those rank on the list of spending? I mean, it's not resurfacing, it's a completely new road, essentially, right? Same as Church was?
Right. As far as Davis Street,
Right, well, no, Davis I got. The other 2, are they well after? Are they in as bad a shape as Davis, or are they pretty close?
Yeah, these are pretty close. They're all about that bad. Yeah, we take the worst of the worst and, yeah.
But these are small, I mean, these are smaller patches, small patches.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
$90,000 when it comes to roads doesn't get much, so.
Right. Any questions for Mike? Take a motion.
Well, I'd
Yeah.
just like to say that I agree with him. I've had calls from people on Davis Street.
Yep.
I've told them it's our top priority, but they agree we can't wait.
Yep.
And they were pleased with the fact that we went up there and put cold patch, or you went up there and put cold patch in that main one, so
Yeah,
I did hear some positive feedback on that.
but it didn't do much, did it?
No, and they never do.
Right, right.
Take a motion.
Someone.
Second.
Roll call.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes,
Lane?
Yes.
Dvorak?
Yes.
Mordini?
Yes.
Item 6, Papa Sean Comer with Papa's Pizza, presentation on proposal on leasing the unimproved alleyway between Giggles and P&M Apparel. Mr. Sean.
Had a road procedure done today, and I can't really get hers to talk.
Unacceptable.
My son is gonna do it.
Better all the time.
If you have any questions when it's over, though, I can answer them, but we just want seating between us and P&M on your land, so.
So my name is Jay Comer. Sean's my father, the owner of Papa's. So today we're proposing a 1-year lease for the land between the Papa's building and P&M. There's about 16 and a half feet of grassland there now. That 1-year lease, we propose $100 for that parcel of land. We would convert it to outdoor seating for Papa's customers. We would mow it, we would pick up trash, we'd make it sure that it looks good. There are currently 2 porta potties there. We would move those to the side of Giggles and put a fence on the south side of it. So from the seating area with the wooden fence, you can now see the porta potties, but from the square you could. We would also put fences around it. So you'd have the wooden fence blocking off the porta potties and then a 42-inch iron fence on the north and south side of it to try to designate the area. So we don't have any plans to put lighting there now, so it would only be kind of during the daytime that we'd use it. But if it becomes popular, we would absolutely be willing to look into lighting. There are 2 restrooms now, right when you walk into 3 chicks, 2 more in Papa's, and then with the porta potties that would make 6. And the idea is to serve beer and food there. So if you go behind Papa's, you can actually get to that area behind the building, all of which we own, so you would never see a server going to the sidewalk. It would always be behind the scenes to get to that area, so you would never have food or beer visible from the square. And that's pretty much it. So you'd walk from the back of the Papa's door through the old car wash and then around to the seating area. And then after that year, if it goes well, we'd like to reconvene, see what you guys think, and potentially extend it.
Since it borders P&M, are they okay with it?
Yes. Everyone in all of these buildings agreed that they're all okay with the idea.
So would your customers actually be coming out, I'm just looking at overhead map, would your customers actually be coming out of the back of Papa's then? Or are you going to have them coming out of the front of Papa's and going,
So you can see them through the front.
see them through the front?
Come in and you say you want outside or inside.
Gotcha. Okay.
What's our liability?
Well, we'd
Yeah.
address that. We'd have
In the
we'd bring
agreement.
back a formal lease agreement and would address the liability issue, make sure that it's their responsibility. And that they would have to have the appropriate insurance as part of it, so.
So we'd get the appropriate insurance, of course, and the liquor license.
Yeah, and the liquor license is
So
another
that would
issue, yeah.
Absolutely happened before we served any sort of alcohol out there.
I read in a thing, the write-up about it, that by the porta potties, you plan on putting a 6 to 8 foot wood fence. I just would encourage you to make sure that that fits our fencing ordinance, because 8 feet sounds too tall.
6 foot would be what they would put in there.
Okay. Otherwise, I think it sounds cool.
We do what you want to do, we just don't want them to see it from their seating.
John, you know, at one point in time, we talked about various things with those porta potties over there. I remember you had a petition and where this went and unanimous decision to the Parks Board back in 14. But I don't know, we may look at that and see if there's a way that we could make those even more aesthetically pleasing on this side of the street. If you put a fence on I'm thinking similar to what we have at Leonard Park, where, they're kind of tucked back in there. So, if you put a 6-foot fence on one side, maybe we could, I don't know if that's gonna mess up the accessibility of them but we may look at that and see. I know you and I even talked about that back then, ways that we could shield the view, so I would just say maybe you work with Public Works on that a little bit. Just a thought. As we talked about, I just don't know if it would be a problem to them to get their trucks in there.
Yeah, don't close it and make the fence whatever size you want or whatever you need. We just try to make it visibly so that while they're eating, they don't.
No, I got you.
I just don't want you to build something that had to come down.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and I think your lease is a good route here. If it works in a year from now,
Yeah,
I think
we
we,
had anybody there. I don't know.
yeah,
We just
but
try it for a year.
we
and
look
see
at
how
them,
it
if
goes,
it,
and then
again,
address it.
yeah, if it works, maybe we look at a more permanent solution addressing I know you guys addressed it a couple years ago with the porta potties, but I think it's worth considering again when we've got another option that could utilize that space differently. But maybe we see if this works on both sides for a year and then tackle that on a more permanent basis.
Yeah, if the porta potties weren't there, we put the iron fence all the way across and that would look better, but, if they have to be there, that's what we propose to do.
I guess that was my question, is there anything, I know we've discussed this 100 times, but we can do with those porta potties to move them? So, because I do think it would be not only better for him, but better for the square in general.
I had to go back and refresh my memory on this one back from 14 when we tackled this, and we as a council at that time decided to push it back to Parks, and Parks decided to say that they wanted to keep them now. I think that I'm willing to if we want to go back down that road again, I don't know what that does to your outdoor seating. I didn't know if those were part of your master plan that you had to have those there.
We're trying to cover them up so people don't see them. So
Gotcha.
if they were gone.
Mike, are there any other good options for those?
We exhausted about all options that
Yeah.
are there, to be honest with you. I believe there are some other businesses around the square now that probably have restrooms too. But like I say, a couple years ago, people wanted them there, and so we left them there.
Yeah, and I know what you're saying, Jason. I did talk to the Parks Board, and I think their feelings are different now. So would it be possible if we, I don't want to derail this with that, but to try it for a couple months without the porta potties at all and see what we have, because there's no
Well, that's going to
ordinance
change where he
required.
puts his fence. though.
Yeah, that's why I want to,
Yeah,
is
I
it
don't-
something that,
The one thing his liquor license is going to ask is how close are the restrooms?
Right.
If he shows that somebody has to walk around on the public sidewalk in to get in, they're going to have a lot longer look. Once he gets by the first year of having a liquor license out there, they're probably not going to be looking at it as closely. I would suggest, yes, it needs to be studied. We need to take a look at it. We need to know what the residents think that use the park down here. And when we've got concerts going on, like we're going to have on May 20th and that type of thing, there's a bunch of varieties of things we can do here that are alternatives. One is leave them as there is, beautify what we have, try to find a better place for restroom facilities, put permanent restroom facilities in.
Mike's cringing over there.
I'd like to kind of piggyback on what he said. I guess my question is how often they get used, and at what point are we just overdoing it for convenience? I mean, we don't put restrooms in every single park in town, nor do I think we intend to. And I think at some point when you look at the square as a whole versus somebody having to walk a block.
We've got more and more parks than you think, but I know exactly what you're saying. What I wonder is, and again, I don't know if it benefits us, but again, just looking at this, if your liquor license would require that, I mean, is there any thought about putting him back behind? Back behind, no, back in that area. I'm just thinking behind Giggles and between, depending on where you ran that fence, and you'd have to go over and look at it, but it would still potentially allow you to have some outside facilities that, if the liquor license thing became an issue.
Yeah, that has space back there too.
I think it's important that we mention the fact that the reason those were left there is because we had different businesses, different business owners a few years ago. They didn't want people coming in using the public restrooms in and out. So that's one of the main reasons why we left the porta potties.
Actually, we were still having Parks and Rec meeting down here.
Exactly.
Now they've moved.
Exactly.
So that was part of the reason. If
Yeah.
you look in the minutes from 14.
Yeah,
Parks wanted to keep them there.
I don't know, we'll have to take a look. If they can go away, they can go away. I still hope that someday we can have permanent public restrooms on the square. We can find a place to have them. I hope it does. And I also think it's important that we, for the record, we let people know that there are no city dollars involved in this, correct?
In what Sean's doing? Correct, there's no city.
Yeah.
He's gonna pay us money.
I think that's important we tell people that.
No, we're making money on this deal.
Yeah. So,
Maintenance alone makes it worth it.
That's true.
yeah.
So what are you gonna do? Just leave it are you gonna just leave it grass? Or are you gonna put,
For this year, for sure.
All right. Yeah.
It's all experimental this year, and then we'll readdress it next year. If you guys will put here.
yeah.
Make a motion to approve, item number 6.
To direct me to prepare a
There
lease
you
and that to bring back to you at the next meeting.
Exactly.
Second.
There you go. Any other questions? Roll call.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sargent,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes,
Lane,
Yes.
DeVore.
Yes.
And I'll get it to Gary and he can then get it to you guys to look at.
Thank you.
And then I'd also ask staff to look at how the porta potties and all that stuff might work into that equation, and if there's a different option there, I think that might look to work with Sean.
Did you let somebody on city staff just know if you find out if it is an issue with your insurance or not, if we were to remove them?
Insurance or the
Liquor license.
Liquor license, excuse me.
Yeah, you know,
Just make sure we don't hurt you by trying to help you.
Yeah, if that wasn't there, would it change their answer on the liquor license?
We don't want to derail what you're
do
doing.
you call them and tell them I need to switch, or do I call them and switch?
You do.
Okay, when I call them tomorrow, I'll ask them.
Thanks.
And then we would have to approve another liquor license for him in addition.
Well, we're gonna try to do them all at the same
All at
time.
the same time. Okay.
Because if he has a lease, then he can put that lease with his outdoor service, which we can then,
All right.
so it's how we put it on the agenda on May 9th. So we're gonna put the lease first, then his liquor license, and move forward.
Okay. Cool. Go rest. Thanks.
Thank you.
Item 7, consider motion to approve resolution 2016-36, approving agreement with North Polk Schools to provide transportation for summer rec program at a rate of $5.46 per mile for 2 buses. You want to talk on this? Same rate we had
It's the
last year.
same rate as last year. We did a comparison again. We used the providers that are out there that we can find as North Polk, Durham Bus, Windstar Lines, the whole summer events. The best we can figure it's going to be $9,043.94 North Polk. It's $14,280 for Durham Bus and $21,927 for Windstar Lines.
Those must be some nice buses.
They're really nice.
Oh, Windstars are good charters. Any questions? Take a motion.
Motion to approve item number 7. I can just do that right this time.
Resolution 2016-36, yep.
Sorry, yes.
Second.
No worse.
Roll call, please.
DeVore.
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sargent,
Yes.
Anderson,
yes,
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 8, consider motion to approve resolution 2016-35, changing Lakefoot Drive to Marina Cove Drive.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Roll call.
Lane,
Yes.
DeVore.
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sargent,
Yes.
Anderson.
yes.
Motion carries. Yeah. We'd spend a lot of time preparing for that one. Item 9, consider motion to approve second reading of ordinance 2016-1400, amending Chapter 47 Park Regulations, adding Section 47.25 tobacco-free policy with updated enforcement language.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sargent.
Real quick, just a note on the updated enforcement language. Gary, do you want to just speak to that real quick, because I know that we did update that.
There was a question by the council at the last council meeting. One of the questions was, if there was a fine, what would the fine be? It would fall under a municipal infraction unless it is otherwise identified. I did hear some talk after I identified that the first offense would be $750, the second offense would be $1,000. This changed it to $100. Probably more likely that a person would be written a ticket and then would have to pay over $750 to $1,000.
And it provides that a warning's issued first and the ticket wouldn't be issued until it received a warning and not obeyed that.
Is,
Comply with the warning.
when you talk about the warning, this isn't like in our other codes where you get a warning depending on the calendar year. Every calendar year you get a new warning and a new game.
No,
Okay.
not, no.
Thank you.
Changes weren't significant enough that we have to call this reading one again, do we?
No.
Thanks for the update on that. Item 10, consider motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2016-1500, water and sewer rates, amending Chapter 92, water rates, Section 92.02, rates for service, and Chapter 99, Section 99.02, sewer rates.
Mayor and council, you'll find two ordinances in your agenda packet. One of them reflects an increase of $2.32 for water, which is a 10%. And that's the $2.32 is based upon a family using 4,700 gallons per month. A 15% would be $3.49 extra per month. Irrigation would go up 22 cents at 10%, and, excuse me, not 22, would be 45 cents, we're looking at the wrong column, and 68 cents if it was a 15%. Sewer rates at 10% would go up $2.99 on that same 4,700 gallons, and $4.48 if we increased by 15%. The numbers here really tell the story. A 10% increase barely covers where we need to be to pick up the difference with the Des Moines Water increasing their rates by 10%.
So, is that, are you done, Gary?
Yes, I am. Unless questions.
So I think this is one of the most critical things that we have to address now. I didn't fully realize until recently that we're subsidizing principally sewer usage to the tune of over 700,000 annually. And I think I'll kind of get into some of the things that came up around Lost. But I think we need to shore this up. And I think, again, I'll go into some of the things I found out on Lost activity, but were that to go through with where we're at with our budget and paying for with the rates that we have now, I think we would have to decrease department budgets across the board. I think we probably have to let people go, and I think we'd have to raise taxes all together with that. So I think it's incumbent upon us to put ourselves in a better situation prepare for that. I think that it's coming at some point. It's a necessity for West Des Moines and Des Moines, and I think it's, at some point, it's gonna happen. Hopefully, Rob's closer to right than I am, and it's down the road, but, so I think we need to address this. That's the first reason. I also think that, this is, the perception here is that we're helping out maybe the lower income people, and as I see it, we're helping out everybody, whether you're in TCI or wherever. So I want to, again, not penalize anyone. I don't want my water sewer rates to go up any more than anybody, but I think it's a tough spot. I also think there's an environmental issue here with us lowering the price and therefore increasing usage. There's basic economic tenet that the cheaper things are, the more people use them. So for a lot of reasons, I've got a direction that I want to go on this, but I want to hear other people's thoughts too.
Well, I think there's no question if you look at the comparing that, what you just said, and also what other cities are charging, it's two-way. There's no wins, but it comes to the point where we have to decrease the gap, and we're also not even close.
We're the lowest of the metro area.
We're lowest of any of it, so we have to make the gap up one way or another.
In all reality, we're basically passing the cost on and trying to decrease the other side too.
Yeah, I think that's important, that we let the public know that we're not making any money on this. We're just passing on the costs that
We're losing.
Des Moines is charging us now.
Oh, that, yeah.
Mike, I know this is something you and I have talked about the last couple of years, several different times. It was kind of one of the things that was on your list that you wanted to continue to try and get caught up on this. I don't know if you have any input that you want to provide, I'd take it.
When we started this years ago, we knew that local option sales tax was going to be part of the issue, or part of the way to get this in here. And we've always said, I think every council said, and most of you are the same, but we need to start making progress towards that side of it and making sewer sustainable on its own. We knew it was going to take some time to get there. It's just how much, I guess, pain you do in certain years. But I think we've all wanted to get there for some time, including myself.
Well, and I mean, I remember hearing stories from other communities that when they went to WRA or others had to put, crazy surcharges and other things in, which we've been able to avoid doing.
Absolutely.
But to echo Councilman Sargent's comment, I was just at a meeting with a bunch of metro mayors this last week, and he's right. Every meeting you go to, they're talking it right now.
The estimates were tripling our water bills to make this happen, and that we didn't do that. We wanted to stage it in better than that. But that's, in reality, what we're looking at here if we have to get to that point. Now, I'm not saying that has to happen immediately, but I'm saying that was kind of what we knew that going in. So, yeah.
Well, and we've been doing these small incremental increases that really are getting us nowhere, right? I mean, we're basically passing the 10% on that we're being charged. It's a pass-through. We're not making anything on that.
On the Des Moines water side.
On the Des Moines
water side, yes.
73% of the water that comes out of your faucet now comes from Des Moines. 7 years ago, that was on a 50-50. So every time Des Moines adds, it's almost an automatic that we have to.
Oh, we're not the only community faced with that.
Correct.
Everybody else is.
No, everybody does.
Yeah.
Well, to add on what everybody else has already said, I agree with everything that's been said. Whether you call it a usage tax or whether you call it pay to play, I guess, is kind of what happens when we do it this way versus across the board. Tax increase, which I guess you could argue is a tax regardless. But to be clear, at least from my seat, I would never, on this issue, be a supporter of raising our tax for this. To me, there's so many inefficiencies in government at every level. We would owe it to the citizens to go through there and find those first before we just automatically say we're going to do this to pay for that. That's something I can't support. But I think we do need to look at the issue as a whole. I agree.
Guys have anything else to add?
Well, I know for years we've been, like you said, doing the little bit that was to build up a war chest, if you will, so that there won't be such sticker shock when we hooked up to WRA. But with the 10% increase, if we increase it by 10%, we're just treading water, we're not gaining anything on it. And much as it absolutely pains me to say this, I don't think we can only do 10%. So I guess with that said, I'll be the one to bite the bullet and I move that we approve the first reading of ordinance 26-1500 in the amount of 15%.
I'd like to go a little bit different direction since we've gotten bleeding in one specific area. My thought was that we would, and I don't know if this equates to the same thing procedurally.
Well, you don't have a second on Dan's motion yet, so.
I don't know that mine is that different than yours, Dan. What I was going to say is we do, across the board, we pass along Des Moines Waterworks roughly 10%. And in addition to that, we do our own 10% on irrigation and 20% on sewer, since those are the areas that we're specifically deficient in from. Does that make sense?
So you're saying rather than do 15% water, so you would decrease that from 15, based on Dan's motion to 10. So basically the pass through, and take your sewer from 10 to 20, correct? I'm sorry, you take your sewer to 20%.
Right. In addition to Des Moines Water, I don't think we should be, we're not, Des Moines Waterworks is increasing by, let's say 10%, whatever it is. That's not our increase. We pass through that across the board and add our own 10% increase to the irrigation and 20% to the sewer. Does that make sense?
I leave it up to you guys. Go.
So yeah, it's 10% water and 20% sewer instead of 15-15.
Well, net, it would be 10% water, 25% sewer, 30%, or 25%, sorry, 10% water, 20% irrigation, 30% sewer.
That is not what you said.
What I said was, across the board, we'd add 10%, but that's not ours, that's Des Moines Waterworks.
Okay.
So you got 10% there. We would add 10% to the irrigation and 20% to sewer. So it makes, again, the net increase on water 10%, on irrigation 20%, and on sewer 30%. Because sewer is where we're losing all our money in.
But the 10% of Des Moines Waterworks, that really has no effect on our sewer. Our sewer doesn't go 10% by passing through, no. Only the water meters, which would include the irrigation meter.
It's based on water, though.
But it's based on the gallons of water.
Right, so
used.
it's, again, pass through Des Moines Waterworks increase. We add our own on the irrigation to the tune of 10% and sewer to 20%.
Basically just 10% across the board plus those two columns.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, I just, maybe it's semantics, but the original 10%, that's from Des Moines Waterworks. Our increase is separate from that. I don't think we should be saying City of Polk City is increasing the total percent, because we're not actually doing that. Des Moines has a piece and we have a piece.
So more or less getting to the same point Dan is, just in a different formula.
Well, I mean, there's more sewer than there is.
Right.
So, if they were all equal, then yeah. But
Okay, I'm going to ask a question, so I just make sure that I have everything, so I can.
It's as complicated as I.
So I can.
wants to make sure you.
I just want to make sure that I get the right information, so when you vote on it, we're correct. So water goes up a total of 10%.
Yep.
Irrigation meters go up a total of 20%.
Yep.
And sewer goes up a total of 20%,
30%.
30%. Okay, I do not have the,
And that's just what I'm, because again, that gets us not even a quarter of the way to recouping the losses that we have with our sewer.
well, I can't accept that as a friendly amendment.
Yeah, wait,
No.
Dan's got a motion on the floor,
Okay.
and we haven't had a second on that one yet.
Okay.
If it dies for lack of second, fine, then we can go to whoever is making the next motion and vote on, and get a second on that.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to do super motion here, I just want to address the specific areas that we're incurring the losses.
Can you read back Dan's motion to me?
His was the 15% increase across the board. His was the second
The second of the-
ordinance that we had presented to us. So it would be raising on average $3.49 for water, 68 cents for irrigation, and $4.48 for sewer.
So water, these numbers.
Well, I will second it just so we can keep moving.
Okay. Further discussion on that?
I just want to say,
30% sewer.
I can probably live with 15%. The 20% is kind of hard to swallow. I don't know anybody that gets a 20% raise.
He's asking for a 30% increase in sewer.
Pardon?
He's asking for a 30% increase in sewer.
But you didn't. I seconded your motion.
Yeah.
But mine's 5% less on water, so.
So it'd be an increase of that.
14, and that would be 528, so that would mean $1.22, and that would
Really money this.
$3.23.
Do you have something?
I'm just listening to you guys.
Yeah.
I'm tending to agree with just a little smaller bite, because when I hear those numbers personally, not that, maybe it's the education, the perception will be that they're being raised by the whole number, not that it'll just be 10%. The number will be 30 by the average person that listens to it, reads it, or hears it, it's gonna be. So not that we don't need to get there, but it seems like a big piece to me.
94 cents is how it goes up.
Regardless of which way we go, I think
This would go
at some point in time, whether it's tonight or 2 years from now, it's something we're gonna have to tackle.
Continuously. Yeah, maybe it's just not every 2 years, we just have to,
We've been ramping up
Every
every
year,
year for
yeah.
at least 6-7 years.
we've been just passing on the cost, really. I mean, we haven't,
So we haven't been ramping up.
we've been just treading water.
Out of curiosity, when you raise this 10, let's say we raised it 10% last time or whatever, what additional money to offset does that bring in? In other words, if we were to try and do this through inefficiencies, what would we have to do to match that 10%?
To match that 10%, you'd have to have, you need more than 5, it's probably a 7%. To match the 10%, that's Des Moines Water.
Right, no, I guess what I'm getting at is, let's say we raise this 10% tonight, right? What is the city bringing in to offset those costs? In other words, if we were to go back to department heads and say, we need to cut X amount of thousands of dollars, what are we bringing in? I mean,
By adding 10%.
right. So that we can so we don't have to do this to everybody every 2 years if there's another way. If there's not another way, well, there's not another way.
Well, his increase would lessen our losses by 140,000, if I'm reading this right.
Going to 15%.
So basically, we more or less have to cut a minimum of 125,000, give or take, to make it 10%. You got it somewhere. All right. We can do that.
And I agree with Rob. That's all I said last time. I think we need to take a look at other issues other than just, pretty easy just go to people and say, we're raising rates. I think there's some things that we can do and should do.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on the 15%. I guess I'd ask if there was any further discussion on that. If not, I'll take a roll call.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet.
No.
Motion carries. I guess I would encourage staff to continue to look at these numbers as we start into the process in June or July, whenever we start these this next year, and start looking at what we need to do moving forward, and maybe come up with some sort of a game plan moving forward, since I know it's kind of been the constant. We've just been doing 10%. Start looking at what we need to do. Okay. Do you have anything you want to add to yours at all, or?
No, I don't understand why we're now overcharging for water and undercharging for sewer. But
Keep working at it.
Well, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the water utility is operating in the black, is it?
pretty close.
Yeah. It's about zero, is where it is.
And with a 5% increase over the 10% at Des Moines, we will be in the black. That was my whole point with changing things, specifically addressing sewer, which is causing the losses.
That was the first reading, so if we can, you're gonna have 2 more bites of the apple. You have something else you wanted to add? You were just gonna say
No,
something?
I'm fine.
Okay. All right, motion carries on item 10, by the way. Item 7, mayor's report. I did have something real quick. I just want to pull something up. Get ready for it. I think most of you guys got, Mr. Calhoun left. I was wishing that he hadn't left yet. But anyway, I think most of you guys got the letter from the pharmacy on their closure, or you heard about them closing. And I guess I just wanted to be clear that it's, what, did you or did you not? Did you not heard that? Okay, so the pharmacy sent around a letter this last week that they're going to be closing, and unfortunately I can't find my email on this, but I had heard about this probably about a month ago, and had asked Mr. Calhoun to work through with the pharmacy to see if there was anything that could be done to save them. And interestingly enough, it's not a result of, I think, unfortunately, the way the letter read. I think Mr. Mardini and I talked about it at one point this last week too. And unfortunately, I think the way that the letter read was that it seemingly was because of a lack of support from the community, and that is not the truth at all. The letter that I had received, or that we had received on it, was that it actually they were 30% up above what they were anticipating, and unfortunately, due to the insurance world as it is right now, and I think most importantly, and not that it was stated this way, but I think because of Obamacare and some other things, that it's forcing a lot of small pharmacies to close, and there had been something like in the neighborhood of like 70 that have closed in the recent year, and it could be more than that. They're moving all of their operations to Ankeny. We're still working with them. John's trying to find anything that we can do to save them. They want to be in Polk City. They want to stay here. They want to do anything they can to be here. But at the end of the day, there's nothing that they can do. So it's very unfortunate, and I just don't want there to be the public perception that this was not being supported by the city. As a matter of fact, by all accounts, they were supporting more than what they even anticipated. So we're working to try and do something, but I just don't know if anything's going to be able to be done. So anyway, I think that's really all I have for the most part. Rob?
I'd just like to add on to that. I mean, when you guys are all watching home tonight on this, or some of you maybe, nothing better to do. When you're watching politicians on TV promising you free insurance, nothing is free. For everybody that jumped on the free insurance Obamacare bandwagon, it's costing a lot of small businesses their entire existence. So there's the facts for people trying to get votes, and there's the facts in the real world, and they don't match up all the time.
Yeah, I just found it. So he said that managed care was making it almost impossible for them to stay in business. So they were 30% higher in revenue than their original break-even target, and they still can't operate at a profit. Something like 70+ community pharmacies have closed in the last couple of years, probably more than that now. We're looking to try and find a buyer, and he said, good luck, be my guest. So, unfortunately, that's a hit for us, but, I think that at the end of the day, we're lucky because we can go to Ankeny still, but those small communities in various parts of the state that now people have to drive 50, 60 miles to get to another pharmacy. It's just terribly unfortunate. Anyway, Mr. Sergeant.
A couple things. I had received an email from a resident on Southside Drive about the speed down there. I know we've addressed it before with the sign. I wanted to see if there was, and I think that they had contacted maybe you, Dustin. Is there any way we could track the number of actual tickets that get written on that road? Again, so it's coming off of 415, it's going downhill, it's one of the main avenues for everybody. It's a tough spot, it is what it is, but is there anything else we can do to track some of that, put a larger presence down there?
We could do kind of the same thing we did with the complaint that Councilman Anderson had a couple months ago. If we need to do some more stationary radar setups down there, or possibly even set up the mobile speed trailer and get some data on what's actually going on down there.
Okay, I know it's tough, but I think anything along those lines would be appreciated. Thank you.
We'll probably start with just letting the officers know there's been a complaint, and they can pay a little more attention to patrol in that area.
Next thing I had alluded to earlier, so I had a couple of conversations with a few different folks on Lost. I haven't gotten updated recently. Last I knew, it was likely to not get out of Ways and Means, but in talking to the mayor from Perry, who's in a similar situation to ours, based on the current language that's in there, we would be impacted, could be impacted, even if the legislation goes through and Rob's right and the popular vote votes it down, based on how it's worded and the residential property tax wording that's in there. So that wasn't something that I was aware of in another scenario where we're impacted by how this comes again. So it appears as though we've bought another year, but I think with all the movement that I've seen in the MAC and other avenues from Des Moines and West Des Moines, it's going to come eventually. That's why I think it's the priority that it is. Other thing I had, DART's been on the news quite a bit. I don't think that we have seen anything, at least since I've been on. Could we reach out to them? And I thought they were supposed to do a proposal for an update every year or so. Am I wrong on that?
Usually the area representative comes out. I will reach out to see if we can get a update.
Okay, thank you. And last thing I had, I think you guys have addressed this in the past, but Mike, if there were a possibility to drill another well or something, I know we're not gonna, and I don't want to undo the progress that we made working with Des Moines Water Works and working for the new water tower, but if we could increase our own production of water, what that would look like, and if it's not worth even putting a cost benefit to, then tell me, but if you could maybe do something along those lines to try and get us back maybe to where we were, 50-50, like Gary mentioned, is that worth kicking the tires on? Or?
It's fine in the space, because we're boxed in by the Corps of Engineers on the south end of our well fields and the golf course on the north end. So it's hard finding a spot for a well, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
We could look at that. I know we kind of briefly looked at it last year. We can look at it again and bring back some options.
So that's a hurdle in addition to just the cost of doing it, right? So are we up against anything from a DNR standpoint that a new well is subject to different regulations than an existing one? So
Probably would be. Not just to let you know that also, the plan is to go to Des Moines Water at some point in the future, whatever that future is, however many years that is. But we've always known that we want to keep our water treatment plant running as long as we can. And we are continuing to do that. And I can still see it going another 10 or more years. So it wouldn't be bad to look into it. I just know it's going to be difficult to get another well.
Right, okay. And again, I'm not trying to jeopardize any of the good work that's been done to get us to this point, but it just puts us dependent upon another organization that, again, as was discussed here, that their increases will be passed on as our increases, so there's something we do. That's all I have.
I think we need to set another priority meeting. The last one that we set, obviously is not gonna happen. Find out if trails and sports complexes and parks are still our number one priority. And if it's not gonna get there with the bond issue, so now we have to take some looks at what we're gonna do as alternatives. And I think that will take some different priorities from this council on where our money's gonna go. And I think we need to get together and make sure we're all on the same page with that.
Can you give us a little time? And part of the
Sure.
reason I say
Well,
that
that's
is,
what I was gonna
and
say.
part of the reason I say that is because we are still working with the Corps. We kind of ran into a little bit of a roadblock on this extra ground that we've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of ran into a little bit of a roadblock in the last week, 10 days, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so can you give us a little time to figure out if that one's going to happen? Because if
Yeah.
that doesn't, that's going to really change some things.
That was I was gonna say there's no real hurry on
Okay.
it. I just think we need to do
Yep.
it, and I'll get on the same page with it.
Yep.
Find out. If not, then maybe we can go back to refurbishing some roads. I just wanna make sure we're all on the same page.
And then once we get started with the July meetings and what have
We
you.
had that one in June, meeting in June where we start talking priorities again, so.
Well, I don't know if I wanna say this on the record, but they're holding us up for putting some wire in. I'm not really counting on that ground out there.
Yeah. There's a new person.
I
There's
know, I've heard the whole
complicated-
story. I've
yeah,
heard
okay.
all of it.
And I would have hoped by now we would have heard on the batting cages.
And I'd also like to say that Little League, with their own money, has purchased a new drag machine out there for the Diamonds, a three-wheeler that's set up for that. Thanks to Public Works, they had a door that would work so we can put it in a shed out there. Volunteers came and hung that door, got it done, so there's now a place to put it. One of the city employees was back today, I found out, and built a ramp to make it to get in, and so that will be huge out there, because it was being dragged with last year, or they were being dragged with last year, was a gator that belonged to an individual, and he needed to take that for his business, so they were pretty much left without a drag. They got it from Dan Bunkers, got a really good price on it, and seemed to be very happy with what they got. So I think it's important to know that they are going out on their own, working on their own to make things happen.
Anything else?
And that's it.
Mr. Lee?
I don't really have anything city related. I just have a cautionary tale to remind people again to not give information out over the phone on people that don't identify themselves. I've had 3 calls on my answering machine since Friday about entity trying to track down the whereabouts of Dan Lane. I've lived at the same place for nearly 26 years now. It shouldn't be too difficult. They do not identify themselves in any way, shape, or form. And Roger, for your information, the number has changed. So it's just like years ago when you used to get those, this is your second and final notice to lower the interest rate on your credit cards. It's a scam, so if people call you, they don't identify who they are, don't give them any of your personal information. And I don't know if anybody else has had a similar call. Like I said, Friday was the first one. I've had a total of 3 now.
I want a free trip to the Bahamas today at 3:30.
Be fast.
No, they called me on my phone.
Yeah,
Didn't take it, but I didn't.
I get them all the time.
Yeah, I do.
I don't know.
Good reminder.
That's all I've.
And they also are gonna lower my credit card rate.
Perfect. Dave?
Yeah, just a couple things. I wondered, Amy, if we have an update on the home.
What you're discussing in closed session.
Right. So.
Never
No.
mind.
Actually, how should I? The second thing is to Rob. Sarch's point of, I think we need to quantify, it's hard to look at numbers with the sewer rates and the water rates. I think just the percentages themselves maybe not be what we think they are. You know, if you say 30%, but if we're truly making up ground and we can just quantify that, put it on a piece of paper so everybody can see it, I think that'll make a big difference. So if we need to look at that moving forward, it's just hard to swallow that number. Third one is, I don't remember this coming up in my 10 years here, but Pine Ridge Boulevard on the right-hand side, parking, the parking on the right-hand side as you go down the hill, I know whoever has ever driven that, they're allowed to park on the right-hand side. Anybody know what I'm talking about? As you get on Pine Ridge?
At the north end.
Yeah. Well, on Pine Ridge, at the west side, you turn right in and parking is right there, and then there's a curve that goes around. I don't know if there's any way to, there probably has to be some off-street parking, or is that correct for developments, or?
Doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have, the new roads don't.
Dan, do you know what I'm?
South side or Pine Ridge?
Pine Ridge.
Yeah.
Everybody takes it on the way home tonight. I mean,
South side's the same way.
We leave the gate open.
I was gonna say my car's
yeah,
still working.
just not as much room to see people coming on in Pine Ridge. So it's truly a hazard because you can't see people coming up. And if you have a chance to look at that, maybe Chief, I know that all your officers will be familiar with what I'm talking about, but it's it'll happen just like crossing 415 is gonna, somebody, unfortunately, it's just it's a potential issue. So that's all I have.
Really, all I have is just something I thought of as we talked tonight. We're talking about inefficiencies and doing more with less and everything else. And where I'm going with this kind of tie into something we did earlier here, and I know they're not the only one. Earlier today, we had a deal we put together here with Center's Construction, working with them on a current business project. And I know a lot of the times in this community or anywhere in general, the developer is the big bad boogeyman in the closet. But as I was sitting here, we were talking about that, I wrote down some of the things I know, and I'm sure there's stuff I'm missing because this is just off memory. But just with that one particular, developer, they were one of the first ones to buy into the business park. They've sponsored numerous businesses and other events in the city. They took care of a dilapidated home when a resident here gave us reasons to be concerned. A lot of investments in the community, continue to make a lot of investments in the community, and just been an all-around great partner. And I guess where I'm going with all this is I hope when people see that we're doing this or we're doing that, they take into account all these things that some of these developers do. I know sometimes things happen and there's reasons people should be angry. But in a couple cases, them being one of them, I can think of, they're a great partner for the city, and I think it helps us all in the long run.
Well said. Anything else? Council discussion, yep, go ahead.
I just wanna, that's a good point. And along those same lines, I've heard criticism about public works and how they're not getting involved in the different things. And in talking to somebody today, I find out you are. I find out there's things you're doing out there that people don't even know about. And I think that's important. That you are supporting Little League. You are getting people out there doing things that soccer fields, that the work that's been done out there. So I think it's important that people know that also.
Council discussion, quick update on Highway 415. There was some social media stuff going on and people asking questions because there's been flags placed and poles brought in and other things. Gary, just a quick update on 415.
What they're doing is utility locates and making sure that what's in the field is going to match what they have designed. I do not have a date yet on when this will be bid. I don't have a contractor and I don't have a start date yet.
It's still happening, but we're still waiting on the DOT, so in case anybody asks, but they are marking a lot of stuff out there. There's been contractors and other utility companies out there that's like,
If you want, long story short, if you see something about the city on Facebook, remember our past, it's most likely not true.
yeah. You mean social media?
I know, shocking.
City Administrator's report.
2 things, sir. The Davis and Tyler Street intersection, we had our pre-construction conference last Thursday. The contractor plans to start May 2nd, and their proposal is to be done by the end of May.
Excellent.
That would be very good. We continue with the police chief search. Please remember, May 17th, approximately noon, we'll figure out how this is all going to work and probably bring in lunch, so we may be there a little earlier than noon, but just to keep you reminded, May 17th, Methodist Church. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Attorney's report.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Engineer's report.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Public Works report. Consider motion to approve 2-year subscription to SDS Binder Works in the amount of $3,154.50, using a $1,000 grant from MICAP and $2,154 from SCCIC. Mike.
Yes. Did everybody get the memo in their packets? Pretty much kind of repeating that. This program, really what it is the right to know program that we have to adhere to, that I'm managing. And really this is a citywide program. So when we started looking at how to get the MSDS sheets to the new SDS sheets that are required of us by June 1, I talked to some communities, and this is how we wanted to deal with it if we could. What this company does and has to offer is they can bring it in, digitize it, organize it in a better way that's more usable for our employees. Right now we have them in the books with tabs, that type of thing, but we could actually use our phones in the field with these also, that we can retrieve them, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So there's a host of things that, just not digitizing them, but getting them on our phones, more usable, and really that's what the intent was, is to get these in the hands of the employees that are using these chemicals. So anyway, I was at a safety meeting with our partners in IAMU, and I was talking to a few of the public works directors there, and some of the towns that were there were Johnston, Boone, Waukee, and we had actually Traer was there also, which they're way up in the northwest part or north. But anyway, they're using this service too, and they had nothing but good things to say about how this is managed. So this is what we're trying to do, and I'd appreciate getting there. We went and looked for grants to make this happen, and Gary came up with one from ICAP for $1,000 that we could use towards this, and then we went to our other partners in the SCCIC coalition, and we have some monies there in that safety group that we can use for the rest of it. So that's what we are trying to do this evening.
So this doesn't cost us a penny?
Not with those funds, right.
You want to
For 2
make
years.
Huh?
For 2 years.
Right, for 2 years.
Then we'll continue on with it, right?
That is correct. Yeah.
I think this is what we've been talking about, and that's being creative with getting additional services. I mean, you went out and looked for grants. Gary, thanks for looking, those, really doing due diligence, not just saying it's an open checkbook, if you will, but appreciate you doing that. I think that makes it a lot easier for us, and then next year when the subscription comes up, then we just have to see the value that you guys had and the return. And
Right, we can, yep. And I did want to say that the safety committee also brought this up at their meeting last week, and they have also agreed, so.
Motion on this, sorry.
Motion. Safety committee, safety committee, is that what the SCCIC is?
The safety committee for Polk City is a group of city employees that are on that safety committee. The SCCIC, I might have to have some help, Dustin, what that acronym stands for, but it's
Yeah.
or am I putting you on the spot?
It's a coalition of 13 communities in the area that get together quarterly and we talk about safety issues. So Central Iowa cities of
Gotcha.
Anyway. We've been part of that group about probably 5 years now.
Right.
Pretty close to 5 years.
Right.
Apparently it's not the South Central Coastal Information Center. It
is, but not.
Yeah, all right, not this one, not in California. All right, guys have a motion on that?
So moved.
Roll call?
Sargent?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
DeVorak?
Yes.
Mordini?
Yes. Motion carries. Anything else? Hey, I heard the contractor up on Davis is a good contractor from what you guys have seen so far, right? I mean, everything has been good.
Yeah,
Yeah, Lane.
we're really encouraged, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Okay, I heard some good stuff. That's why I wanted to just
Absolutely.
go on record to say that. So,
Yep, yep.
Good.
Water main flushing went well last week.
Oh.
We were done on pretty much the fourth day, and then we did our annual flow testing. We have about 4 areas that we wanted, as new areas grow, we do flow testing in those areas right after we flush. So, and those went well, and we got that completed too, all in the 1 week period instead of the alternate week also, so.
Good. Okay, thanks. I don't think Jake's here tonight. Finance,
Nothing.
fire department?
The only thing I have to report is last Tuesday, we did our annual smoke detector checks and pizza delivery with Papa's Pizza. Went really well. We delivered about 120 pizzas. So that, I think last year we were at 99. So turns out the fire department's a pretty efficient delivery service when it gets right down to it. We got her figured out. So it went really well. I'm not sure how many batteries we put in. Quite a few, but so went good.
So the fire engine come by my house Saturday morning.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I know. Were you coming back on a call?
No,
or
we were
you still
training.
cruising.
We were doing some training.
Okay.
Cruising, yes.
Anything else?
Nope.
Police department?
No report.
Library, citizen liaison.
No report.
Number 12, I need a motion to enter into a closed session pursuant to Code of Iowa, Section 21.5, closed session. Discuss strategy with counsel in matters that are presently in litigation or where litigation is imminent. Is that better? Can I take a motion to go into closed session?
Second.
Roll call on that.
And I can do this really quick.
Perfect, she can do this quick.
Lane?
Stay.
Yes.
DeVorak? Mordini?
Yes.
Sargent?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
I need a moment to shut off cameras.
Excellent, motion carries. Give us about 3 minutes or so. I'm asking staff to stay, right?
Yes, I want staff to stay.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Let's wait for the lights to go dim.